So let's talk a little bit about time. So creation or manifestation of the universe or the cosmos and time are inseparable because the universe is basically a collection of objects or collection of forms, and every form is vibrating energy. Like forms, the most commonly perceived forms are sounds and sights. So sights are basically light, which is vibrating energy at a very high frequency, and sounds are also vibrating energy at a lower frequency. So without time, there can be no vibration because vibration implies two states that the system is moving between. And this change between states is what creates the perception of time. The perception of change and the perception of time are the same thing, really. So, the five senses basically consist of collections of perceptions of objects or things or forms which are vibrating energy, and vibration depends on time. So, creation is basically perceptible due to time. But consciousness is beyond time. The concept of time arises in consciousness, and all forms are perceptible by virtue of consciousness. But consciousness is untouched by time. In any vibration, the system moves between state A and B repeatedly, states A and B repeatedly. If you take a vibrating particle, it's moving like that, here to there to here, again and again. But consciousness perceives both this and this. It is present during the motion of the particle from here to here and back. So the entire vibration in any vibration is perceived by consciousness, but consciousness transcends vibration. Therefore, consciousness transcends time, and therefore consciousness transcends creation. So your form identity, which is basically your ego, which is basically what you think you are, as opposed to what you actually are, is inextricably linked to creation, because there would be no self without the other, and the other is a set of forms, which, as we just discussed, depends on time. So the self is also a set of forms, which, due to the dependence of the other on time, also depends on time. But consciousness is the source of the other and the self, and it is the absolute truth. And it is independent of creation, but creation arises from it, and is known by it, and is made of it. So form and time are inextricably linked, and the formless and the timeless, which are basically the realm of consciousness, are also inextricably linked. So this is why we close our eyes when we meditate, because we want to disassociate ourselves from temporal phenomena to experience that which is beyond time. So that is why we close our eyes when we meditate. So enlightenment is to be in conscious connection with the timeless, with that which is beyond time, with consciousness. And that can only be done now, because consciousness is now. You can never find consciousness anywhere other than now. Even in the apparent past, it was the now appearing as the forms of the past, and in the supposed future, it is going to be the now appearing as the forms of the future. So, time is a river that flows through the now, through the eternal, timeless, indestructible now. That is liberation from misery and suffering. Because time consumes all forms, and attachment to forms is what leads to suffering. Because when you attach to something and that is taken away, as it inevitably is, it's like a limb is being torn off your body. And if you are not in perception of the timeless, you will invariably be attached to form and therefore subjecting yourself to suffering. So realize now that time is unreal, that consciousness is the source of time, and free yourself from suffering.